I know this is a very, very short notice. I just want to appreciate you guys once again for making out time to join. And then thank you because yes, David said it. This is actually a birthday gift from you guys to me because, yes, I wanted to bet this vision. And this vision is to say that we want to close that gap as much as possible between what this business leader really wants from a technology as against what we technologists assume that is what they want. So this, I mean, this is the very first episode. And again, to just do a quick introduction of myself, my name is Olajumoke Toriola, fondly called MJ. And like I said, please, NJ doesn't mean Michael Jackson, because if you ask me to take any step, I won't be able to take any. But NJ just simply is a pet name that people in the community, colleagues have started to call me by. So, and then I'm very honored to be called that. And so I'm also an MVP. I'm the CTO of Ashem Limited. I'm an MVP in the M365 apps and services. Again, I'm also a Microsoft Regional Director for Nigeria. And then I get to hear that I'm the first lady in West Africa. And that seems like a little bit of, adding some caps to my feather. So I think I'm actually very, very excited about that. So thank you all for joining. So we'll just kick off with the panel discussion real fast. Each panelist has about 3 to 5 minutes to take up any question, and then use case scenarios are also welcome to buttress any of their responses. And then, so without wasting much of our time, I'm going to start with Sam. Um, Sam being the IoT guy, the Azure guy, and the beauty of all of this is that there is a dual personality in a way with each of the panelists here. They are both technologists and they are also at the same time business leader in their field of in the field of work. They are experts in it. So they are actually coming from the place of a technologist and at the same time from a business leader perspective. So we are honored to really have this amazing set of people on this call. So for Sam, I know that Sam, you play a lot with IoT devices. That's the components of Azure and of artificial intelligence. And of recent, AI has really, really, really made a lot of buzz in the technology space, specifically generative AI. I just want to ask, how can organizations strategically leverage artificial intelligence to achieve its business goals and and objectives? Additionally, in what way can we use artificial intelligence to tackle specific business problems and then capitalize on new opportunities? And so I want to hear your thoughts on that, Sam.
Yeah, thank you for the question, MJ. You're right. Again, happy birthday to you. I was wishing I'll probably be around Nigeria for this time, and then would have gone to that spot. But anyways, we'll talk about that backstage. So, interesting question. You're right. AI has really evolved, and not just AI on its own. I think what we also need to appreciate is the fact that the technologies behind AI, those technologies have evolved. What are some of the technologies? Compute power, right, is evolved. Processing power has evolved, has improved. So cloud computing, there are a lot of underlying technologies now. There's quantum computing. There's all sorts of things, GPUs. So the technology behind it itself, has evolved to get us to the point where we leverage it. If we want to draw some line between traditional and modern ways of running a business, and aligning it to technology, you look like we came from paper-based systems, and then we started digitalizing, so that you have your spreadsheets no longer on a paper but in Excel. Then you move to some word processing with Word. Then that evolution happened. Now, what the power of AI is giving us is more or less like that rapid transition on steroids. And it's good you mentioned that before organizations, think about it or going into it. It's very, very, very important that we make sure we are aligning, the company's aspirations and goals and strategies, you need to align them with the AI capabilities. Let's have that at the back of our minds. You can't just use AI if it doesn't align with what your business goals and aspirations are. And I'd like to speak to the fact that, sorry, as of today, it doesn't matter any organization or industry you find yourself in. There is an AI like connection, or AI is applicable in it. I want to go back to a famous quote that Satya Nadella made. He said that in this modern century, every business is an IT business. Gone were the days where somebody said, I'm just a farmer. I'm just a Greek. There's no IT in it. Today we have agri-tech, right? How can you use components like AI to even, determine, is your soil having enough nutrients, to be able to grow the crops you're growing, right? You're seeing some patches on your crops. Today with AI, there are services where you're taking a picture of it to know what's happening to the crop. Do I need to cut it down? Do I need to? So today, every business is an IT business, and that also means that every business stands the opportunity to grow and to stay ahead of the competition using AI. I'm going to touch on a few things where businesses can strategically align to use this. Now, one example would be identifying business needs and goals, right? Now, you can use AI obviously to analyze your business operations, right? Identify the areas where you have insufficiency, right? Where there's high cost and where you can have potential growth. Now, there's massive data. I know Deji is going to talk about a lot of data stuff. Businesses generate a lot of data. Some businesses are fortunate to be able to collect the data in one way or the other. Others are not even collecting it. Others even don't know how to collect the data. The data is just, they don't even realize that this activity is a data point I need to collect to help me make some informed decisions, right? And I'm sure did you cover that? But that's one way. You have that data. AI can help you identify problems and how to better solve them. We can talk about data management and and analysis. The data that you've collected, right? You've collected the data. You can use AI to perform analysis and give you some insight on where you think areas where no, we need to change this, we need to work on this, we need to include that, and that's going to help. That's another option. Now you can look at process optimization and automation, which where sometimes I come in, and my example with the beer, right? Think about that whole process where something as simple as even though I use beer to do that, but something as simple as automating your operation systems, right? And because it's automated, you are feeding data into a platform where AI can now make inference and actually even tell you that, look, from our analysis, we realize that it takes you about for the past couple of for the past quarter, it's probably taking you 2 weeks to finish 12 bottles of beer versus in the past it was taking you probably a month to finish. There has been a change in the rate at which you are depleting the beer. Is there something going on? And see, interesting enough, you can correlate this to a lot of things. It could start probably asking me questions about how do I feel, my emotions, and you could now draw some conclusion to say that Sam is probably going through some depression. And that is why beer that he used to finish in 1 month, he's now finishing it in 2 weeks. And thanks to an AI system like that, my doctor could be notified that your client is going down the depression. So you see how it might feel abstract, but you see how connecting things like IoT to automation to AI and data, a lot of things can happen. Even in healthcare, patient management. Today, I'm wearing a smartwatch. There are Fitbit, there are pressure and heart monitors. These data could be piped into systems running AI that can be running analysis. These data points are synonymous to someone who is likely to have a cardiac arrest. Almost immediately, your doctor could call, or your next of, your emergency contacts could be notified. So that's in the area of process optimization and automation. We can even talk about product and service innovation, right? You can use AI to tailor products and services for individual customers. You have their customer data. You've been able to collect their buying behavior and analysis. You can actually provide customized discounts and services for just them. We can go ahead and talk about market and sales enhancement, human resource management, risk mitigation and compliance, which I'm sure David will talk about. Now, sometimes there are certain risk factors that are coming to businesses that you might not immediately recognize. It might take a team of risk assessment people to go over certain documents, to look at what about his history or the person's history or this. But AI has access to all this data and can do that inference in a matter of seconds. So to sum, my general, submission on AI, my take is that it doesn't matter what industry you find yourself. It doesn't matter what size of business you are. Today, from a startup to a medium to an enterprise, there is AI in there for all of us. And all these things I have mentioned and more, you can leverage it. Today, you can have a startup that is partly run by AI, right? And therefore, your cost is not as much as if you were to do it some years back. So we need to be open-minded, and I want to start throwing hints on this. Yes, there's this whole conversation on AI is going to take our jobs. Yes, some jobs might be lost, but the truth of the matter is that if you're a business and you position yourself in leveraging AI, strategically aligning yourself and your business goals with what AI can do for you, right? You are putting yourself ahead of the curve. This is as business. As individuals, we can come to the fact where you become the subject matter expert or the AI expert in the organization to lead that AI revolution or that AI path for your company, becoming the AI champions. We started the same thing with cloud champions. We had businesses where someone had to be the champion for that revolution or for that change. And when the storm blows, because you align with it, you are staying there. But the person or the business that says, oh, I don't want to go AI, I don't want to leverage it, I don't want to learn it, the competition will run ahead of you. You become irrelevant and you lose everything. So with that, I'll end my submission for now. And then as we move on, I'll bring in more details. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Absolutely true. Every business today is actually an IT business. I think that's one thing I want to take away. So, and then the need for us to start early enough to start considering the aspect of integrating or infusing artificial intelligence into what we're doing, whatever type of business you're running. And then you can use that to actually do what drive value, not only just for your business, but also for the customer. Thank you so much, Sam, for that. So I'll be moving on to Deji, and we know at the center of all of these, it is data. Um, all around these buzz of AI, whether it is security that David is going to talk about in a bit, the truth about it is that at the center of it all is data. So my question is, to achieve the desired outcomes of generative AI, which Sam has touched a bit, it is actually very important organization prioritize obtaining very high quality and diverse data, because we're talking about massive data. There are different subsets of data set that is going to be used here. And like I said, data is actually considered the model swirl or lifeblood of the models when it comes to generative AI or even artificial intelligence, how it creates its model. Data is considered as the fuel or the lifeblood. Now, I just want you to explain how making use of comprehensive data sets can help in the development and refinement of AI solution. Ultimately, how does this actually facilitate innovation and deliver value to business? Over to you, your thoughts, NDG.
Okay, thank you very much, MJ. And before I answer the question, keep my birthday cake. Happy birthday. Okay, so let's move to the question. But let me quickly say this. Without data, AI will simply lack the foundation it needs to operate effectively. So if data is not there, then something is missing. Now, if the data used to train an AI model is inaccurate, incomplete, inconsistent, or biased, the model that predicts the decision you want to take will be inaccurate, incomplete, inconsistent, and will also be biased. So when we're talking about completeness of data, there are a lot of things we are looking at here. Now, we are talking about high quality data. We always give you AI system that can make more accurate prediction, provide relevant recommendation, and effectively help automate your process. So you've rightly said it. Data is actually the fuel of AI. Now, if you don't have all these things in place, if you don't have accurate data, clean data, correct data, and even having the data at the right time, then you might likely have an AI that will mislead the organization. So many organizations that want to leverage on AI, I will tell them, do you have the data that will fuel that model you are coming up with? So the next question is, how do we actually manage the type of data we handle? So in any organization, we always advise, have your team in place that are in charge of your ETL process. Where is data coming from? Is data fit for use? Yes or no? If not, let's get into transformation stage. And once it's been transformed, where are we storing it? Is it in a lake or we are storing in a warehouse? And I'm happy now, we now have Fabric that is mixing, blending together our data lake and also warehouse. We now have what we call lake house. So we have everything you might think of. So we now have a comprehensive solution that we can leverage on, and we already have a foundation for AI to strive and to move very, very well. So how can data and AI facilitate innovation and deliver value to business? So we are going back to business now. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about here is this. As far as AI and data is concerned, there are lots they can do for the business. The first thing, they help to increase productivity and operational efficiency. We like it or not. Once, imagine HR department of a company is trying to prepare offer letter. So you are still trying to put together the content of the offer letter. And in the same organization, you just go in there, prepare offer letter for MJ for the position of CTO, blah, blah, blah. The next thing is, who is MJ? What position is he going for? What's the job description? He has gone through the database. He has picked all what he needs to pick. He has composed a nice letter. All what you need to do is just to vet, print out, or send via email. Now, imagine a solution like that, and somebody is telling you, yeah, the letter will be ready before close of business on Friday. Oh my good God. There are two different things here. We are talking about increasing productivity and efficiency. So it helps to automate the process. One, it removes bias from the operation. Imagine you have a system that is managing so many things than having human being handling some things for you. There'll be a little bit of what bias in the operation. But here we talk about seamless operation. It helps to avoid mistake and human error as well. Imagine you have a solution that is running on itself, so it knows what to do. So there's no need for you thinking about mistake or human error. That is one. Number two, it helps you to gain insights through the data analysis. Imagine you already have a lot of data, clean data that you have in the organization. It can help you gain insight. You will have a better understanding of the business. Oh, this is what is happening. But if you don't have data, then you cannot measure. And if you cannot measure, you cannot control. So it's fluid. The data, the measure, and the control. I'm trying to get better at what I do. What did you do last week? You don't even know what to score last week. This next exam I want to do, I want to make sure I score. You score what? What was your former score? I scored 56. What are you targeting now? I'm going towards 70. Then you have measured yourself, then you can go forward. It's data is something that can help you gain insights into what you do and get better. And finally, so when we talk about innovation, the value of data, AI in business, we're also talking about engaging with customer and what? Employee. Having a nice solution in the organization, wonderful database, that is feeding your AI model. I can go on your website. I saw a website. You won't believe it. On the website, just type there that you want to do, you have interest in one of their products. Instantly, the website has gone to the database to tell you information about the product. That is one. Number two, it will tell you the colors and everything that is available. From there, this is what I'm interested in. As you select it, it will quickly tell you, should I prepare invoice for you on the fly? There's nobody there. It's a robot. Should I prepare your invoice? So once you prepare the invoice, it will ask you again, where should they deliver how are you going to make payments? Are you making payment via, it will handle all the process. And after that, when they deliver, it will send a message to you that the item has been delivered. The machine is talking to me. It will now ask you to rate in. Or don't let me use him now. Should I say rate it? Now, rate what I have done. Imagine a wonderful customer engagement. And in organization today, most companies are now using it. So I want to apply for leave. I interact. Customer care. I don't need somebody to be there to talk to me again. So, but if you don't have good database, I tell you, you will not really have that. You will not enjoy the full capacity of this AI we are talking about, generative AI. So generative AI is simply asking a question and getting the feedback immediately. It generates the content for you. But if you don't have the data, where will I? Oh, let me use a small example to explain this. When I was in school, my final year, we were working on a project, and my project, then we did not call it generative AI or prompt engineering. Then we call it natural language. I built a natural language that when just type a question, or you type a question, you run into the database and feed you back. I think I used Force Base or Force Pro to build the solution that time. Now, I took time to build what you call dictionary. And if you see how every dictionary is, so anything you type, it would definitely ask you. When I was doing my presentation the other day, they brought in external invigilators. So they were like, come on, okay, hold on, I'm going to reframe the question. As they reframe, I don't care how you want to reframe the question, it will always give you an answer. Imagine if I don't have a huge database, clean data, as they are asking questions, it's throwing error back to them. So how do you feel? So we need clean, accurate, complete, consistent, non-biased data to fuel our AI for a powerful solution, AI solution in an organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deji. Absolutely true. So, I mean, my takeaway from that is that if you do not have a clean or consistent or accurate data, then it will be more of garbage in, garbage out. And I like that particular statement that you made, that you can only measure. If you cannot measure, you cannot control. And then, which is very true. And then this shows the importance that of a true when it comes to the lifeblood of any innovation around artificial intelligence and all of that. Data is at the center of it all. Thank you so much for throwing so much light to that and then the use cases you gave us. Now, moving on to David. As the world becomes increasingly reliant on technology, we know that cyber threats is evolving, and then it poses also a significant risk to business. Now, as a business leader, one that has worked really even in the space, I know because I know what Palo Alto Network is all about. I know what they do. And you as a business leader in your position, um, you will agree with me that taking proactive measures to prepare for and respond to these threats, especially within AI and data usage, is crucial. And the main reason for this is because even as the technology evolves, we know that the threats around it also evolves. So I'd like to know more about how your organization, in terms of Palo Alto, safeguard against risk that are posed by AI and ensure the safety and security of business and then customers. I mean, as they delve into using these tools, especially with data at the center of it.
Thanks very much for the question, MJ, and thanks very much for the lovely explanations, Sam and Mr. Deji. So usually when we have like when we have a transformational technology, right? The first thing that comes to the mind of organizations is how do we make use of these to drive business outcomes? How do we make use of this to drive more revenue, to drive more operational efficiency? It's common. It's it's very, very rare that you find an organization that takes a step back that says, how do we actually use this in a secure way, right? Or in a compliant way? That doesn't even come to like the conversation initially. It's more about let's build amazing stuff. Let's use amazing stuff. Until you start hearing the news and then you start hearing about, oh, there's a data breach somewhere. There's a data leak somewhere. Someone has been fined somewhere. Then organizations now begin to roll back. So what I'm trying to say is that usually security conversation comes usually at the end when you have some of like these transformational technologies. And I wish I could tell you that it's a bit different in this case. We had like 2023 was a year of generative AI. ChatGPT came out in 2022, late 2022, grew to about 100 million users per month in early 2023, just making amazing strides. But it's the same trend that we're seeing where many organizations are not really thinking about like the security side of things. Many people are just thinking about like just the use cases and how do we use this to build things. And speaking of like some of the things that we're seeing, so one of the main risks has to do with like, one side is talking about with data, right? So you have where employees of companies are getting familiar with consumer applications like ChatGPT, and they're beginning to upload corporate data into that because they get value from it. Oh, I can get this thing to write the email. Why not just let me take this sensitive customer data, sensitive data, and just throw all of that. So, and all of that is going outside where cybersecurity can see it. And what that means is attackers are finding new avenues that they can use to get to the data. It's like we don't even have to go through all these gates. You just take all this amazing data, put them on this platform where you don't have MFA configured, none of that stuff. I bet if I ask majority of people, do you use MFA when you're accessing ChatGPT? Many people probably go, no. Can you still hear me? Sorry, I'm not sure if
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
loud and clear.
So many people probably go, I don't even have MFA with like ChatGPT, but if you put corporate data in ChatGPT, many people probably go, yeah, I've put corporate data there, but there's no security there from the perspective. So the only thing I can really advise like business leaders to do from this perspective is to take a step back to understand what exactly are my users, what are they doing in this area, what are they currently using, what use cases are they currently leveraging all these consumer AI applications like ChatGPT and BARD to solve, right? And then either start looking as an organization in terms of how you can provide this to them in a more secure way, or maybe in a way start trying to think about formulating a policy on how we adopt AI as an organization, right?
Absolutely.
So that which is again usually like what you see is that the use cases go first and then the policy starts to come like right afterwards, and that now begins to like grow over time. So policy is very important. What also makes that difficult is if you look at like governmental policy, not very many regions in the world have like a governmental policy around AI. I think the only region that has released anyone that I'm aware of is the EU AI Act, which was released just a few weeks ago, and which essentially was talking about like different risks area of AI and how organizations can approach that. So that's something that business leaders could look into to get ideas from in terms of how they begin to formulate like some of these policies around security. There are many other aspects to talk about, but I think that we can go through the next round of questions, and then I'll give like some additional thoughts around that.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, I think for me, it is actually very critical that before we dive into the water or into the ocean of this transformation AI, really, there has to be that take back, or how will I put it? There has to be that reflection to say, oh, do we have the right policy that guides the use of this AI in our organization? And I think that's my own takeaway from what you've just said. It's actually very, very important that organizations are just not jumping right ahead into it and then we're neglecting the real facts, because customer data is what we're handling, and then we just put all of those data, and then it's actually, I mean, I'm taken aback because, to be honest, I don't think a lot of organizations taking deeply the fact that you can take something and then put on ChatGPT, and then it brings it out, and then with less effort makes you even ignore the fact that, oh, there could be some customer data here that I'm taking, and then I'm exposing, and there are actually some there are actually some policies in Nigeria that has to do with privacy, customer data also. And I'm sure that a lot of people are not paying attention to this. I thank you so much for
And
that.
also, there's a few things that's also like driving that. One of the things that's also driving that is because users hear about like these amazing AI applications, but then enterprise applications are lagging behind in functionality. So it's sort of like a balance between that innovation and that making sure that you're well grounded from protecting your organization's digital assets. So, I think that some of that will probably begin to roll back as maybe the Microsoft release systems of like Copilot for like Office, and Google's, version of Copilot, Vertex, and all these other, AI assistants begins to be embedded in enterprise applications. Users should have less reasons to now be going to consumer applications where you have more risk and putting data into those places. So that alternative needs to be there for us. But that's always the case, right? With cybersecurity, it's that innovation runs so fast and security is trying to catch up to it. It's always like that game of trying to catch up with it. But like you said, starts formulating a policy. It's not going to be perfect. It can be your version 1 policy of, secure adoption of AI for this organization. These are policy. And then begin to evolve that policy as you learn more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David, for that. Okay, so moving on. We've talked about data, and then we've also, the next question is to you, Deji, and is around approach to data monetization. So for context sake, this data monetization is all about the economic value you put on corporate data, really. So I'm gonna ask you, Deji, to kindly provide information on our organization approach to data monetization, considering the security implications, which I think from what David just spoke on, I want you to buttress on that, considering how should organization approach data monetization from a security implication. I would like that you share any details on any innovative strategy organization should implement to maximize the value of their data assets effectively.
Yeah, so thank you very much, MJ. When you talk about data monetization, let me reframe it to data naira and kobo, or data pounds and penny, dollar and cents, CDs, and maybe Sam can help me there. Now, when we talk about data monetization, most organizations, they are actually mixing up things as far as this is concerned. I have seen some companies selling the data they've gathered to people that wants to use it. And just because they want to make money, what you are selling, do you have some privacy information that is not supposed to go out there that you are selling out? That is one. Number two, is there, when you are collecting the data, the customer ask you never to share their contacts. Because, for example, I know a guy is a social media guru. I don't know what they call them. So it will tell you, if you want to blast advert out, it will tell you who are your target audience, which location. Tell you, we want to target majorly people from Lagos that are not, I don't want students, I want people that are working, and I want them to be working in Victoria Island. You can give, so I don't know where he got this data bank from. And it's going to actually blast a message out, and it's going to target those audience. So my question is, where did he get the data from? Somebody sold the data to him. So the person that really want to make money from the data sold the data to him. Now, how do we really go about data monetization? Number one, I have a client, and I found that the client gather data on behalf of several. At the end of the year, they'll go back to this company. We've been able to gather this data for you. Please take your data and pay us this much. I told them, fine, but can you take it a step further? Can you embed analytics into this? Don't sell the raw data to the company. Rather, sell the insights to them. You have been collecting this data for years. Let data be with you. Is your assets, but rather sell to them your findings, the insights, the analytics. Sell to them. And what we're able to do, we're able to now place all our data analytics algorithm on the data sets. The organization just need to log in via your website. Okay, I want to see what happened between so year to so year in my sector. Maybe I'm playing in the telco sector. In telco sector, tell me my performance, and you click on OK. They have collected a lot of data, markets, because I don't know where they got, they have data, but stop selling it. Rather sell the value from the data. And people can just log in. Even midnight when they are asleep, the system is still making money for them. So that's what I talk about when we talk about what? Data monetization. So security needs to be well managed. Companies that are still selling raw fats, they need to check what they are selling out there, and they need to know exactly what they do. And number two, when we talk about data monetization, it's not only by selling of data. You can actually, the data the company have gathered over a period of time, you can actually use the data to drive product enhancements. There is an organization around Lawansin. This woman called on us that, look, I have this challenge. I went for a conference and they said data can help me maximize my sales. That every year, for example, our sales have been like 1 million. I feel like I have data. How can this data help? So that, okay, let's add the data. Look at the value of data. When we, for the first year, after analyzing the data, we gave her some tips. Tip number one, madam, in your store, can you have a shelf by the entrance of your store? If any item you see on this list here, pick those items and place them there and put 50% discount, because those items will expire 6 months, less than 6 months time. If you leave them in your store, they will expire and you not make any value from it. But bringing them out there, you can still make half of the value. Wow, that is one. Number two, madam, can you rearrange your store? We found that there are some items that goes together. The pattern is so clear after analyzing the database. Just my rearranging the store and doing just 2 things, she called back that for the first time, I broke the gene of 1 million naira. We made 1,270,000, 27% increase. I was so excited. 27%. Now, that's the value of data. And that's how you can actually help an organization without actually managing, containing the security feature within the system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adeji. You know, when I keep saying that you can turn data to a human being and then make one fall in love with it, that's your expertise. Thank you so much for that. All right. So my next question is to David. And then this question is actually about balancing between innovation and risk management, especially when it comes in the domain of AI and data security. So my question is this: as a business leader, one will say it is vital to strike a balance between innovation and risk management. And like I said, when it comes to these two things, AI and data security. And then, so I want to find out, how do you approach risk assessment and mitigation when incorporating AI and data security into business strategies? What would be your advice to organization? How do we approach risk assessment and mitigation?
Yeah, no, thanks very much for that question. And again, I agree with your assessment of Mr. Deji's analysis earlier. So people need to understand like the role that security plays, which gets to a business, right? Security is meant to be like the safeguard. So everyone is building all these amazing things. We're doing business, we're selling product, we're selling services. All of that can get destroyed within a few hours, if there's no proper safeguard. Sort of like, before you start a business, you have like legal protections, to protect what you're building. In the same way, yeah, you can build amazing things faster without thinking about the security aspect of things, but it can also come down equally as quick as you build the thing. Everything can go, can come down, especially when you're talking about situations where you have regulations involved, compliance standards involved, in terms of, again, maybe how you're handling your customers' data, how you're handling sensitive data, or maybe like there's even been situations, again, relating to Nigeria, for example, where, banks have been breached and it's caused so much operational chaos, and it's led to an exodus of customers, from one bank to another competitor, right? So that's what helps us do the safeguard. But you're right, there needs to be a balance between like innovation and security. And one of the approaches that you can think about as a business leader, one of the ways that I think about that is having sort of like freedom, because you need freedom to innovate. The more freedom you have, the more innovative you become. You need freedom to innovate, but having freedom within certain guardrails, within certain constraints. So in other words, identifying what are some of the core guardrails that we absolutely must not breach as an organization, and defining what those guardrails are. So for example, maybe that could be around how you're storing data, right? That getting into the wrong hands. How you're handling processes, that gets into the wrong hands. Your devices, your networks, and some of the other points, right? How you're using like cloud applications. All of those all comes into play. But then tying that in to say, here are the key guardrails. However, within these guardrails, you have freedom to do whatever you want to do. And that's probably like the right approach to do that. So I'll give you like a quick, another quick way to think about that. So that's one of the differences between like, let's say, somewhat leveraging the open AI APIs just on the platform, or leveraging the Azure Open AI. Because now with the Azure Open AI, you can define guardrails around that. Whereas with this, you're using a software as a service application where you have less control to define those guardrails around that, right? So when organizations are thinking about how do we ensure that we can move very quickly, define what your key guardrails are that you absolutely have to have in place, include in them the compliance frameworks that you have to abide by. Those should be non-negotiable, regardless of whatever innovation you're building. We cannot break the law. We're not going to go to prison because we want to move quickly. So define those, I'm very clear about those, and have guardrails that put those in place. And then within that, allow development teams to have freedom to innovate, to come across that. One of the other things that also ties into place when it comes to you don't just want to build a business, you want to build a sustainable business, a business that can continue. Having guardrails is a big part of that. If your system is such that an hacker, if they break in, can destroy your entire business with a single breach, that's not sustainable, right? Trust and reputation is part of building sustainable business. If, okay, something gets breached, all of a sudden your data ended up in the dark web, and that gets around like in the news. That could happen, one time, maybe 2 times, 3 times. You may be able to withstand that if you're a solid organization. That happens multiple times enough, it's going to start forming people's decisions, how they interact with your organizations. Am I really going to, go to maybe not the security one would be, but am I going to buy a car when the statistics of that car says there is 80% probability that this car is going to explode? Yeah, or this guy is going to explode. It's like, okay, I do not want to play that 20% game with my life. I'm getting into a car that I know explodes 80% of the time. So those are the kind of stuff that people need to think about, like, to come in place. I hope that gives, like, some guidance around that. And that's sort of like the approach that we also take at Palo Alto Networks. Is we understand that innovation is super important. We understand that we need to be able to move very quickly. We're in a very competitive industry. There's a lot of competitors out there. Generative AI is a big area where organizations are looking to get that leverage over the competition, but there are certain guardrails that we can absolutely, if it's we have to choose between one or the other, then it's got to be this. You've got to slow down if it's got to be we break compliance and regulations.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. And speaking of the car example, I think one of the news this day, I can't remember. I mean, I'm trying to really remember whether it's Ford, but I don't want to call the car manufacturer. I'm not too sure whether. And they said for AI-driven cars that they produce, when you fail to pay or something like that, I don't know how true that is. They start cutting, maybe it is controlled. And then the next thing, maybe at a particular time, the battery is the one that runs down. And then, so it's more like what I saw there was more of like even car as a service, that even when you buy, it's more of like a subscription. And when you do not pay, you might just be going on the road and then you just find out that, I don't know how true that is actually, or maybe somebody's just making up a story. But then it was actually funny that, okay, yes, I buy AI car and now I am in it and all of that. So
I think it will even go beyond cars. I think it's going to go into like Sam's Field, where even your fridge, your gas cooker, because all of them are all connected to data, to the internet, IoT, AI, everything. Your gas cooker will be like, man, you've not paid for the subscription, I'll stop. You're cooking the beans in the middle, man. Sorry, you need to pay for the subscription.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I mean, just to add to that, you're right. Coincidentally, I was having a conversation with someone just this afternoon, and it was in a similar context of, making resources or technology accessible to people, but then also having guardrails around it. An example with the devices or car was there's a phone shop, right? You're struggling to sell the phones because problem with price point. For those of us or people that have experience living in the West, you can go to an store, pick a phone, and you're paying small amount for the latest generation of phones and stuff like that. So in a similar conversation was like, Sam, how can we do a similar thing where if you default to pay, the phone is locked. So those are areas where you can leverage it. But then a more I would say impactful use case. I'm not sure if it's Uganda or Rwanda has something similar, but then how can we leverage AI to make it even better? An example is carbon emissions. Recently I've been dabbling into a lot of air quality sustainability stuff, so some of these numbers are hitting me in the head. In the US, I know very well that when you're re-registering your vehicles, you need to do what we call an emissions test to make sure that your car passes the emission test, is not producing emissions above a certain number, right? Bring it down to Africa. I'm going to speak for Ghana, and I don't know how it is in Nigeria and other parts of the world where there's some vehicles on the road, that generally are producing more emissions than. So you can think about a use case where, with AI infused, where stuffs are embedded, like all this, like you're saying, smart AI cars, is when it starts up and realize that it's generating carbon emissions above a certain, limit, it will automatically lock the car and say, look, your car you need to check it. So it's preventive. It will not even allow you to go, to drive around to generate and add to the, a carbon emission. Another example, which is common use of IoT and AI, is predictive maintenance. Like you rightly said, the fridge. Is it time for my air conditioners and the fridge to be serviced because we realize that the efficiency is dropping? So these are some of the benefits, that we can real use case. But like we are all saying, making sure that we're staying compliant we are within the regulatory, bounds. We are not exposing data that is not supposed to, and also making sure that we're doing it the right way. So it's an interesting time.
Absolutely. And then so this last question goes to Sam. I mean, and I'll say this question is actually about how AI data and um, security, how you can foster all of these to actually remain competitive in the market. So I want to say out a business leader, because it comes down to how you prioritize your investments and all of that. So my question is, as a business leader, how do you prioritize investment and really allocate resources among these three pillars, AI, data, and security, to ensure that at the end of it, it aligns with organization goals and also creates maximum value at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's clear, at least if you don't take anything away from this conversation, the takeaway is that these three things, or AI doesn't function without data, like Deji said. And also, whilst you're doing that, you need to make sure you're compliant, and that's where the security aspect comes in. Yeah, most of the times, like David said, there's always the buzz. Hey, everybody's rushing into it. I need to get into it. Um, it's good to make sure that you're prioritizing and doing it well and spending wisely. Some people say, hey, don't go get a subscription of $1,000 and something and start doing AI. No, it's more than just getting into it. I'm going to talk about a few points. First off is the assess your organizational goals and needs. That is the number one thing. You need to understand what your organizational goals are and needs are, because that is the only way you can align them with the business strategy. Because if you if you don't have a clear vision or a clear goal of where you want to get to, you might probably be investing in the wrong places with AI and just wasting money. So you need to align with that. Yes, so you need to do that. For example, you have to evaluate how, let's say, AI and security aligns with a broader business strategy when it comes to security and data. Right now, you need also to have assessment. What is the current state? Where do we want to go versus the business needs? Are they in line? And that would help you draw some priority table to determine where to spend. The second thing is understanding the independence of data, AI, and security. And we've been talking about that. And when I say we know that AI is powered by data, right? So you need to be sure that I'm using AI effectively and I'm making sure that it stays within the data and security guards. I'm making sure that I am not violating any regulations, right? You need to look at, and the reason why this is important is that some regulations, right, are so difficult and that require you to have certain check boxes before you can be compliant in doing some kind of processes. Now, if that's going to take a longer time, then you know that probably that is not the immediate need to prioritize that side to do AI with. And that takes me to what we call the prioritizing prioritize based on impact and agency, right? So you need to ask yourself the immediate term and the long term. Which one is important? And in doing that, example I'll give you, I talked about automation, right? Now, AI for process automation is an immediate or quick investment or quick win, right? When you do that, you can see that automation and you can see the process happening. Now, the other one, which is a long-term benefit, for instance, building a data lake, could take time. But in the long term, that data lake you build becomes the basis for, that innovation and that growth. So that's a long-term impact. So you need to know, okay, agency, short-term, long-term. So that's another thing to factor in when you are determining where to spend. Then you talked about allocation of resources, right? You need to balance your investment. Because you can't be pumping money, into just one side and leave it. So you need to balance, where you need to make sure that you don't you don't overly favor one pillar. So right now I'm referring to the pillars of that's AI, security, and data. So you need to have a balance because see, like Deji said, if you don't have the data, you can't do the AI. And if you have the data without security, you are open to breaches. So before you go into it, you need to make sure that you're balancing. So sometimes it might require you to balance the spend a little here, just to get it done. Now, the other thing is you need to foster a culture of innovation and learning. AI is continuously evolving. So as part of the strategy to do it, there should be spending for continuous learning. People need to be trained. People need to be abreast with, how it's done. So that is something also that factors, because it's like if they are not, abreast or know anything about the technology or the whole AI space, then obviously they can't produce. It's like buying a new machine and nobody knows how to operate the machine. It's not going to, it's not going to function. Then I would say that continuous learning, which is part of the fostering culture and innovation. So continuous learning, make sure you provide that and give what we call innovative mindset, but then with guardrails, like David said. Make sure that you're providing a space for innovation. I'll give you an example for Microsoft. Even a lot of the AI things that we're using right now happen as a result of Microsoft Garage. And Microsoft Garage is an internal hackathon where all the Microsoft employees come and they throw ideas together and they do things. A lot of the AI things started emerging from that Microsoft Garage hackathon. So as an organization, once you open up for these things, you get to have a lot of ideas. Combining it with your agency, long-term, and all these balance, you get to know where to spend more. And then, last two things I'll talk about. You need to measure the return on investment and adjust your strategy. Performance metrics. Because if you don't establish clear metrics, right, in measuring the return on investment, you wouldn't know where to, putting more money and where to cut it. And that also means that you need to adapt that agile, methodology. Do it fast. If you have to fail fast. Let's adjust what's not working, what's working, and move on. And finally, I will say that make sure that compliance, ethical consideration, and technology trends and markets. So make sure you are abiding by all the regulatory compliance rules. You are abiding by all the ethical standards, like we said, responsible AI. Don't be biased. Look at how it is. Like, don't go throwing all PI information there. And then the last, I'll say that stay ahead or stay with the trend. Get to know what's happening in AI. What are the issues? Stay, in it. And then with that, the last part I'll say that, which I'll give, will be the take home it. Let it be customer-centric approach. At the end of the day, it is the customer you want to give a good experience to. So everything you're doing in balancing and make sure it is customer-centric. Because the customers are going to give you the feedback, they're going to help you generate the data. And after all, if you're not making them happy customers, your return on investment is obviously not going to be there. So these are things I think as a business leader you need to put into consideration when determining how to budget and how to properly apportion or invest in the three pillars we're talking about today.
Absolutely, that's a lot. Thank you so much, Samuel. That's really a lot. I mean, I like the part of the short and long term goal. I like the customer centric approach, and I like also the parts that you spoke on ensuring that you actually determine your return on investment. Just don't throw the money. Ensure that there is a reason and there is a return of investment I am aiming to get from that thing I'm trying to do. And then so I'm sure we're behind time, but I would also say before we start taking questions from the audience, because you spoke around learning and development, I'm going to ask this question and I'm going to throw it to the three of you around employee training and adoption. I understand the importance of having well-trained employees equipped with the necessary skills that they can effectively use AI tools and data while also prioritizing a security-first mindset. So what steps should business leaders take to ensure that the employees are well-trained? And then not only are they well-trained, but they are confident in using these tools while maintaining at the same time that guardrails, that culture of security awareness that David and all of you have been speaking about since. So I would like to hear David's thought on that real fast.
Yeah, no, very, very good one. And again, what lovely analysis by Sam. Thanks very much for that. So the way that sort of like AI use cases has evolved in many organizations is, again, people adopt things without necessarily understanding how to get the best value out of it, and then having to go back later to go do like the training. How do you do that in a secure way? there are different levels of maturity when it comes to cybersecurity. The highest level of maturity when it comes to cybersecurity is when it's cultural, when it's like everyone is like knows that this is part of what we do. So that's what organizations are trying to build when they do all these phishing attacks. I'm sure that you probably do that in your organizations also, where you send, the other day I got an email and the email was like, oh, David, like this expense that you sent has been declined. And I thought I sent this expense like about 2 weeks ago and it was approved. So then I got that, but then because it's part of the culture, you get tested all the time. I looked at the header and I was like, oh, okay, this is not from my official email address. I reported it as a phishing attempt immediately, but that comes from like constant training. That's what builds culture. So whatever training that you're putting together to get your people to be effective users of AI, include security in that also. Include that aspect where you are helping to guide them in terms of, here's an example of what not to do. Here's an example of what to do. I know you want to achieve A, but in order to achieve A, don't go down this other road. You want to achieve A, here is the right way to do it in a way that keeps us compliant. So I'll say keep security as a key part of that security training. To throw in one very interesting quote, from what Sam was saying earlier that I love, that Palo Alto Networks CEO, Nikesh Arora, likes to say, says, AI is something at the moment where everyone knows that they want AI and they need to have AI, but no one seems to be rightly figuring out where they need to put it. We know that we need to put this thing somewhere. Where exactly? So which is where, all those other aspects of what Mr. Deji and Sam has been talking about comes in, because you need to look at your data and get all the other information, right? So, but that's my own contribution. Apologies, MJ, I need to drop soon, but it's been an amazing pleasure. So I'll hand over to Strategy and others.
Yeah, Deji, do you have any thoughts on that to give us?
Well, so when we talk about the steps for the trading strategy, number one, I just want to appreciate what Sam and David have said. They've actually done justice to this. So number one, we need to look at alignment with the business objective. That's the very first thing we need to do and we need to talk about. So in any form of strategy that wants to come in place, what is the business objective talking about? Now, before we talk about any form of training, there is need for training assessments. So the organization needs to do what we call training assessments. So what are the needs? Security, data, AI. So let's for do the assessment. Let's know where the gap is. So if you don't know the gap, so just running into it will not really profit the organization. And number three, there's need for what we call priority. So there is need for you to now align what are the priority, the things that needs to be done first. So these are the strategy that needs to be put in place. Now, after you've set the priority rights, then those employees that you are trying to train, you must have a buy-in. If you don't have a buy-in, you will get frustrated at the end of the day. So what are the motivation behind it and those stuff behind it? So that is key. Again, the delivery. After you've talked about all those things, they are more like the top executive parts. Now, how do you intend to deliver the training? Is it a training that there's an organization, they're already complaining in the company that they are tired of this online training. They needed and they needed a physical one. So there need to be sensitive to the delivery of the training as well. So the delivery, the graphics, everything that you need to bring in place. And finally, the part that I love so much is evaluation, measurable outcome. You evaluate it, not just doing the training, not just coming in trying to do this thing. Where you look at the gap, you've done the training. Can you measure the achievement? Does it really worth it? Can you still build on what you've done, or you should just discard everything? So measurable outcome, that is evaluation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And so finally from you, Sam, what's your thoughts on this? Although I saw, before you give the comment, I saw something at the back of, I was looking very killing to that, whether that's not beer trying to roll over on. But I see
No,
it's a list.
so Deji and David have said a lot about, especially the training side of things. One of the things I just want to highlight from what Deji just said was the buy-in,
Yeah.
because you would have, is a people management thing. Not everybody in your organization is always interested to relearn, learn again, or to, let me put it, so unlearn, relearn. Not everybody. You have people who are good at what they are doing. They've been doing it for the past 10, 20 years, and they are very comfortable and they are very good at it. And they might be pushing back on this thing. Why do I need to learn AI? So you need the buy-in. And that is where things like, sometimes you have to figure out what incentives do you have to put in to even get them to buy into wanting to even do the training. Because look, if I don't have the buying, and I know that my company is sponsoring a 1 week trip to Microsoft Build in Seattle or in Las Vegas, just to go listen to innovative ways we can use AI, I might not have the buying. But the fact that I'm going to sit on a plane, ticket is going to be bought, I'm going to US, I would go. But not necessarily because I align with the business, vision or business goals. So you need to figure it in. And rightly said, sometimes to get high impact, you see, truth is that we are a social group of people. Human beings are very social. So it's thanks to COVID that some of these, online virtual traits started coming out. But deep down, people have different styles of learning. People most times will learn a lot if you are in the physical space with people. So this comes back to the assessment that Deji is talking about. Is it an in-person? Is it virtual? The buy-in, right? But then again, in measuring the output, that is where you'd have the concept of something we call sandbox. So this is the current business trend. This is where we want to go to. Could we create a sandbox where, after everything you have learned, can we see if we can use it to give us a glimpse of what we can get to? And that can measure the impact or output after the training. So you can tell that, look, after the training, we're able to do this. And based on this data from business, that the current data set, even using it to do this, realize that, look, this could be the future. And that is where you can even get more buy-ins from administration to say, look, probably you only did fundamentals. Now you have to go and do intermediate and advanced. So buying not just from the people down there, but the entire organization. Because digital transformation, AI, security, data, is not just someone at the top feeling or just someone at the bottom feeling I need to do. It's a total mindset thing. So that's all I have to add, to it.
Thank you guys so much. I mean, I if not because of time, I would say we should continue talking, and because this has been very, very insightful. I mean, the comments, the insight that you guys have given in your unique way has been very, very contributive to this discussion. I'm actually very, very, very thankful for making out time. I don't know if we have anyone that wants to ask a question. With a raise of hand, I can actually unmute you and then you can ask your question. Or if you feel like putting your question in the chat window, at this time we would like to take questions. But I mean, if you do not have a question, you can always leave your question behind. Maybe if you don't feel comfortable now, we'll actually get back to you. And it's been a very long day. Thank you so much, guys. I want to appreciate you people once again for giving me a very beautiful birthday gift. I mean, I can't ask for more from you guys. Thank you so much. And then to our audience, this is a monthly webinar and then is always happening at the last Friday of every month. So till I see you again on Friday of the last Friday of February, I want to say a big thank you to you for joining. Thank you also to our panelists. We'll be bringing new set of people in, thought leaders, business leaders. All right, I think I have a question. Do I have a question from you? I thought I saw your hand raised. Okay, I think that was a mistake. All right. So till I come your way next month, last Friday of the month, I wanted you to keep learning, keep learning, keep practicing, and at the same time ensure that you preach not only the the gospel of artificial intelligence, preach the gospel of data security, preach the gospel of ensuring that these guardrails and then adequate learning is given to all your employees so that they can move in these transformational technologies, they can move alongside, and then they are using it in the right way. Thank you once again, everyone. Till we meet again, stay safe, stay well, and then bye. Do I have a question from Titi Lokwe? I see her hand raises that.
It looks like there's a hand up.
Okay. All right. I'll just unmute her now and then just. Okay. All right. So, yes, you can speak. You're muted, Titi Lokwe.
Okay. Thank you, MJ. And thank you. I'd like to say a very big thank you to our guest. Thank you. You really break down every detail as it concerns the AI. So the question I would like to ask is this. With a lot of things that is going on around AI, we have organizations who are beginning, maybe because they heard news of, okay, AI data, your data is at risk. Yes, a lot of them are still kind of struggling before now to implement certain security or to ensure that complete protection of their data, right? So now with this AI and the new fears that has been created out there, how do we help organizations to remove this fear? And then at the same time, is there a way by which one can assess an environment to see their readiness when it comes to adopting or implementing solutions around artificial intelligence? Thank you.
That's a very brilliant one. Yes, that's a very good one. Sam, do you want to respond to that?
Yes. Very, very, very important question, and it ties into the sandbox I was talking about. I can speak on the Microsoft side of things because that's where I have a lot more insight and experience from. Microsoft is trying very hard and being ahead of the game in making sure that AI is used responsibly, responsible AI. So the need to do or readiness assessment or readiness test for an organization is going to be in multiple folds or multiple steps. The first would be to, like I said, once you've done the analysis and realize that there's a potential for us to use AI in one space, the first part is to create the sandbox where you isolate and say, okay, let's try these AI services in doing that. The good thing is that Microsoft Azure OpenAI services or the AI service has a lot of things that you can try. For some of them, you need to go through an application process because Microsoft wants to be sure that you are using the AI for what you intended to use it for. Because truthfully, AI is getting more powerful and powerful. Even though we've not reached generative AI, general intelligence yet, what we have now is really good. So you go through an application process, and then they will assess and figure out, okay, the use case you want to use it for, does it align with the responsible AI charter? And if it does, they'll give you access to the sandbox. So you can create the sandbox and use all the AI things, experiment and play around with it within that sandbox in your organization. And the outcome of the sandbox will tell you whether does it make sense to move into this direction, does it make sense to add or not. And that's the good thing about the AI ecosystem now, especially from the Microsoft ecosystem, because you don't need to have what we call an initial capital expenditure. I don't need to go and buy expensive servers. I don't need to go and buy expensive subscriptions. I don't need to go and buy expensive things. With Microsoft offering, right? You can get into the AI space, just sign up, use the services, test it out. If you don't need it, shut it down. Nobody's going to. So for businesses wanting to do that, set up a sandbox, go through the Microsoft process, use any of the AI services, experiment with a team, and see how that that return or that outcome aligns with the vision of the business.
Absolutely. And then I also want to say something that's, leveraging, buttressing on that sandbox that Sam just mentioned. The more you test, the more confidence you have, the more you can actually evaluate and say, oh, and you can make an informed decision to say, well, this is the way. So with all of that, those fears can then be overcome. You can overcome those fears that way. And then if you are in the position to say you now want to deploy the solution to the customer, I think a more of a sandbox and a pilot cases is what's going to make them, how will I put it, overcome their fears, or that particular aspect of saying, oh, we don't want to delve into it. But if you have all of those use cases that you can put it in a pilot case for them to be able to test it, and then they evaluate themselves, then they can make an informed decision out of it. All right. Thank you so much. Do we have any other question? Titilope, I hope we answered your question. All right. Okay. All right then. Thanks everyone once again. It's although I make this call to be an hour 30 minutes, and I think we are actually on time. This is 6:23. Thank you all for joining. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a very, very splendid weekend. Bye for now, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.